I wasn't sick. I wasn't confused. But my own son and his wife made me wear diapers, just in case. They said I'd ruin their vacations. Said I was too much of a burden. In my own house. So I picked up an old phone with shaking hands, and recorded the truth. They thought they could humiliate me into silence. They forgot who they were dealing with. Before I begin my story, let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is. I just want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you feel moved by what you hear, consider subscribing. It helps more people become aware of the reality of elder abuse. Now let me tell you what really happened. I wasn't sick. Let me start there. I wasn't sick. I wasn't confused. I wasn't some fragile little thing drooling in a chair somewhere. I was Eunice Simmons, widow, mother, grandmother, and the one who paid for the damn roof over all our heads. But you wouldn't know it the way Wesley and that woman of his treated me lately. Especially now with these diapers. Adult diapers they called them. Just in case, they said. Just in case what? Just in case I suddenly forgot how to walk to the bathroom like I've been doing for 73 years. I stood in my own bedroom that morning, staring down at the humiliating thing folded neatly on top of my clothes. They'd even left me a sticky note. Don't forget your protection before breakfast. Protection. Like I was a leaky faucet. Like I wasn't a human being anymore. I didn't say anything when I walked into the kitchen. My back was straight. My robe was tied neat. And I had no intention of putting that thing on. Tamara was already at the table, clicking around on her tablet like she owned the place. Wesley shuffled in next, rubbing his eyes like he'd had a hard night. Imagine that, sleeping under someone else's roof for 9 months and acting like you're the one who's exhausted. Mornin', Mama, Wesley said, not even glancing at me. He poured orange juice, my orange juice, into one of my glasses, then had the nerve to say, Tamara says make sure you wear the protection today. We're taking the kids out later and we don't want any incidents. I froze by the stove. My coffee mug trembled just a little in my hand. I said I'm not wearing that, I told him. And I sure as hell don't need it. Tamara let out this little laugh, soft and fake, like I was being cute. It's just for safety, Eunice. No one's accusing you of anything. But you do move a little slower these days and we don't want anything to happen. Nothing is happening, Tamara. I don't have a bladder problem. I don't have dementia. I wash, I cook, I clean, I drive. You think I need a diaper because I nap after lunch? Wesley looked up from his phone like I was being difficult. Mama, come on now. Let's not make this harder than it has to be. It's one thing to be proud, but we can't be irresponsible. I set my mug down. My hand was shaking now, not from age but from rage. Irresponsible? In my house. Tamara crossed her legs and leaned back in the chair like she paid the mortgage. We just want to make vacations easier. Honestly, Mama, this is exactly why you couldn't come with us to Orlando last summer. We can't spend the whole trip worried about if you'll make it to a restroom on time. I swallowed hard. That trip. I'd begged to go. Saved up some spending money in a little envelope. I was so excited to see the grandbabies at Disney. But Tamara told me no. Said the heat would be too much for me, that I'd slow them down. I cried in my room like a fool that whole weekend while they posted pictures online. My grandchildren grinning with Mickey Mouse, while I sat in silence with a tuna sandwich and Wheel of Fortune reruns. Now I knew the real reason. They thought I was a burden. They thought I'd embarrass them. And now they were punishing me every day with this silent message. You are not in control anymore. I left the kitchen without another word. My hands were trembling too much to hold my coffee anyway. Back in my room, I closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed. I stared at that folded up lie sitting on top of my pants and something inside me cracked. I wasn't stupid. I knew what they were doing. This wasn't about love. This wasn't care. This was about control. About convenience. And maybe about something even colder than that, humiliation. They wanted to wear me down. Make me feel like I needed them. Like I couldn't be trusted with my own body in my own home. But I had something they didn't know about. In a stitched up section of my mattress, just under the top left corner, was a zippered slit. And inside that slit was my insurance policy, $150,000 in hidden savings I'd built up quietly over the years. From Harold's pension, from odd jobs, from sacrifices. Money they didn't know I had. I'd always told myself I was saving it, just in case. For what, I didn't know. Now I knew. I didn't move right away. I just sat there, my breath steadying, my heart thudding in my chest like war drums. I wasn't going to let them reduce me to a toddler. I wasn't going to sit here and be diapered like a helpless thing while they took trips and posted smiling pictures and fed each other shrimp cocktails on my dime. No, I was going to fight. Quietly maybe. Fully. But I was going to fight. And this house. It was still mine. Let them think I'm old. Let them think I'm confused. Let them think they've won. Because what they don't know is, I'm done playing nice. And I'm done wearing diapers. I tried to talk to them like a mother. Like someone who still deserved a voice in her own home. It was a Sunday morning. I'd made waffles, real ones from scratch the way Harold used to love. Thought maybe, just maybe, if I did something nice, something warm and familiar, they'd soften. Maybe Tamara would stop looking at me like a mess she had to mop up. Maybe Wesley would remember I'm the one who raised him when we barely had 2 nickels to rub together. They sat at the table scrolling their phones while the butter melted on their plates. I cleared my throat. Can I speak with y'all a moment? Just hear me out. Wesley didn't look up. We're listening. I need you to stop this, I said gently. I need you to stop making me wear those diapers. I'm not ill. I've never once lost control of myself in this house. Tamara finally glanced up, spoon halfway to her mouth. Eunice, we've been through this. I'm not finished, I said firmer now. This is humiliating. You're treating me like I'm less than. Like I don't know my own body. I'm asking, no, I'm telling you, to stop forcing this on me. Wesley pushed his plate away like I'd ruined his appetite. Mama, why you always have to make everything into a fight? A fight. I stared at him, heat rising in my chest. You think me asking for dignity is a fight? It's not about dignity, Tamara said, setting her phone down at last. It's about peace of mind, for everyone. We can't be walking on eggshells wondering if you'll have an accident while we're out. This helps all of us. No, it helps you, I said. It makes your life easier. But it makes me feel like a ghost. Like I don't even own my body anymore. Tamara sighed like I was a stubborn child. You know what? This is exactly why we couldn't invite you to the cruise in June. You don't see how you make things harder than they need to be. That one stung deep. I blinked hard, swallowed the lump rising in my throat. So I'm too inconvenient to be part of my own family's memories? Tamara didn't flinch. Vacations are supposed to be relaxing. Not filled with emergencies. You mean filled with me? Wesley stood up then. All right, enough. We're not doing this again. You always twist everything. Tamara's been patient. She's helped around this house, run errands, even handled your prescriptions. I cut him off. I don't have prescriptions. Exactly, he snapped. You're refusing care. That's dangerous. I just stared at him. My son. My boy who used to cry when he scraped his knees. My boy who I once carried in my arms through a thunderstorm because he was too scared to walk. Now here he was, raising his voice at me for daring to want respect. I walked out. Didn't even clear the plates. Let the syrup crust over. I didn't care. I went straight to my room and closed the door, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. That evening Denise called. My daughter. My only daughter. She used to be my baby girl. But now she was too busy to visit. Too tired from work. Too involved in PTA meetings and yoga classes to come check on her mother. So I answered. Maybe she'd seen what was happening. Maybe she'd finally step in. Hey mama, she said brightly. Wesley told me y'all had a little blow up again? My stomach dropped. I asked him to stop making me wear diapers like I'm a damn toddler. I said. That's not a blow up, Denise. That's called standing up for myself. She chuckled. Oh mama, you're being dramatic again. Wesley and Tamara are just trying to help. No, they're trying to control me. You've always been proud, she said. But sometimes we need to accept help. You're not getting any younger. I don't need help wiping myself. She went quiet. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? I said. They're treating me like I'm not right in the head. Like I can't be trusted to take care of myself. Like I'm not even a person anymore. Denise's voice came back soft. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're just trying to keep you safe. Safe from what? The toilet. She exhaled. Mama, I don't want to argue with you. I know you're upset, but sometimes people do hard things out of love. That was the final straw. They're not doing this out of love, I said flatly. They're doing it out of convenience. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're no different. Denise didn't say another word. We hung up not long after. I sat there in the dark for a while staring at the photograph on my dresser. Me and all 3 kids at the lake house back in 1998. I looked so strong in that photo. Like nothing could touch me. Like family was forever. But family doesn't force you into diapers when you're perfectly well. Family doesn't exclude you from vacations because you're too much trouble. Family doesn't silence you when you're crying out for dignity. That night I cried into my pillow. Quietly. I didn't want them to hear. I didn't want them to know how much it hurt. But inside something started hardening. I could feel it. A shift. If they weren't going to give me respect, I was going to take it. And I already had an idea how. I'd never done anything like that before. Me fumbling around with some old phone I barely remembered how to charge, trying to play secret agent like one of those spy movies Wesley used to love as a boy. But this wasn't a movie. This was my life. And I was tired of being humiliated in silence. I found the phone in a drawer under my sewing kit. It was cracked, dusty, slow as molasses, but when I plugged it in and let it sit overnight, the screen blinked back to life. No SIM card, but it didn't matter. I just needed the camera to work. And Lord, it did. I tested it first by recording myself reading a verse from Proverbs. The sound was shaky, my voice thin but clear. The image, a little crooked, a little dim, but good enough to catch the truth if I could time it right. I hid it behind a fake flower arrangement on the buffet in the dining room. Something nobody ever looked at, not even Tamar when she dusted once a month just to say she did. I angled the camera toward the kitchen table where most of the conversations happened. Most of the arguments too. And then I waited. 2 days later it happened again. Same routine. I walked into the kitchen for coffee. There on my chair was the folded diaper like a damn napkin laid out for a child. Tamar was buttering toast. Wesley had the nerve to wave the thing in the air like he was reminding me to take my vitamins. "You're not going anywhere with us this weekend if you don't put this on, Mama," he said casually, like it was a seatbelt or a jacket. "We're going to the outlet mall. Long walk. No bathrooms close by. We're not dealing with any surprises." "Then don't take me," I snapped. "I never asked to go." He laughed like that proved his point. "See, Tamara? She doesn't even want to spend time with us anymore." Tamara bit into her toast. "Honestly, Eunice, if you would just comply, things would be a lot smoother for everyone. You're lucky we even let you live here without charging rent." Something inside me clenched at that. Let me live here? This was my house. Bought and paid for in full before either of them ever knew how to tie their shoes. My name's still on every single document, from the deed to the taxes to the utilities. But they talk like I'm a guest overstaying her welcome. I said nothing that day. Just took my coffee and left the room. But that little phone caught it all. I watched the video that night, sitting alone in the laundry room with the dryer humming behind me. My hands trembled pressing the buttons. But when I heard Wesley's voice on playback, when I saw Tamara shake that diaper out like a dish rag, I felt something new. Vindication. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't exaggerating. It was all there. The smugness. The control. Every second of it, captured in that tiny, shaking rectangle of light. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I printed out a bus schedule and took my good coat from the back closet. I didn't want to drive. I needed time to think. Time to calm my nerves. I rode the number 6 down to the police station. People say you get used to humiliation, but I never did. My stomach twisted in knots walking through those glass doors, holding that little phone in my purse like it was a bomb. But I was determined. I was still a woman. I was still somebody. The officer at the front desk looked young enough to be my grandson. His name tag said, Patel. I introduced myself, said I wanted to file a report. Elder abuse, psychological and emotional. He blinked at me. "Are you in immediate danger, ma'am?" "No," I said. "But I'm in daily pain. And I've got proof." He looked skeptical. Asked a few questions. Wrote notes on a clipboard. Then asked if I had a guardian or if my children were involved in my care. "That's the problem," I told him. "They claim to be caring for me. But what they're really doing is breaking me down, piece by piece." He sighed and asked to see the video. I handed him the phone. He watched. Raised an eyebrow. Then he said, "Ma'am, this doesn't necessarily prove abuse. It shows a difference of opinion about your care." I felt my chest go hollow. "A difference of opinion?" He nodded. "Some families take precautions. Adult diapers, mobility aids. Those aren't abuse necessarily. But I don't need them," I said, my voice sharper now. "I don't want them. That should be enough. Before I could argue more, he asked me to wait. 10 minutes later, Wesley and Tamara walked in. He called them. They came in acting like actors in a school play. Tamara clutched her cardigan like she was on the verge of tears. Wesley put an arm around me, fake concern dripping from his voice. She wandered off this morning, he told Officer Patel. We've been so worried. Mama's been slipping a little lately. I am not slipping, I growled. I came here on my own. Look at me. Tamara chimed in, soft and sugary. She's very proud. But sometimes pride keeps people from accepting the help they really need. I tried to interrupt, but Officer Patel held up a hand. I understand your concern, he told them. But at this time, there's no evidence of criminal behavior. He turned back to me. Ma'am, my advice would be to work things out with your family. They seemed genuinely concerned. Concerned? They left with smiles. I left with nothing. On the bus ride home, I sat by the window, heart bruised, staring out at the city like it had betrayed me too. But I wasn't done. I may not have been heard by the police. But someone out there would listen. Someone had to. And I still had that video. That night, I sat at my kitchen table long after the lights were out, staring at my old phone like it was the last piece of evidence in a trial I was losing. I felt hollow. Not just tired, stripped. The police had looked me in the eye and sided with them. My own son had been called into the station like he was the victim. Tamara gave a crocodile smile and said I was confused. And nobody batted an eye. They walked me out of that station like I was a child who'd thrown a tantrum in a grocery store. Wesley even had the nerve to pat me on the shoulder and whisper, "Let's not do that again, okay?" I didn't answer. I didn't even look at him. Once we got home, I went straight to my room and locked the door. For the first time in my own house, I locked the door. They didn't knock. They didn't ask if I was all right. They just went back to their night like nothing had happened. I lay in bed with the video replaying in my mind. Not the one on the phone, but the real one, the living memory. Wesley's voice telling the officer I'd wandered off. Tamara's face twisting with false concern, talking about my pride. I wanted to scream, but there was no one to hear me. No one who believed me. I looked at the phone again. That old video, shaky, grainy, barely a minute long, was still sitting in the gallery. I clicked play. There I was, in the corner of the frame, silent and still. Wesley's voice rang clear. She's not coming with us. It's not worth the risk. Then Tamara, just make her wear it. If she leaks on the seats, who's gonna clean it? You. Not me. The video ended with the sound of a chair scraping back. I sat there staring at it until the screen went dark. I didn't know what I was doing when I opened the old laptop. Hadn't touched it in a year. The thing was slow and half-blind from age, but it still turned on. I connected the phone and dragged the video file to the desktop. Took forever. I nearly gave up. But something in me wouldn't let go. I didn't know how to edit. Didn't know how to trim or add music or put little words on the screen like those young people do. I just opened Facebook, clicked that little "What's on your mind?" box and typed one sentence. My children make me wear these. I'm not sick. Is this right? I uploaded the video. No hashtags. No caption tricks. Just that question and the raw footage. Then I closed the laptop and went to bed. I didn't expect anything. The next morning I woke to the sound of yelling downstairs. I stayed in my room, pulled the covers tighter. I could hear Tamara's voice going sharp, frantic. Wesley was stomping around like a bear. A door slammed. Then another. Then silence. I finally got up and opened the laptop again. There were over 3,000 comments. The video had been shared almost 40,000 times overnight. I scrolled down, heart hammering. She is clearly of sound mind. This is abuse. Where is Adult Protective Services? This is horrifying. This woman is articulate and aware. What those kids are doing is psychological control. My grandmother went through the same thing. Thank you for speaking up. I couldn't believe it. Total strangers, thousands of them, saw me, heard me, believed me. By the time I made it downstairs, Wesley was pacing in the kitchen with his phone to his ear. Tamara was crying on the couch. You need to take it down, Mama, Wesley barked the second he saw me. You don't understand what you've done. I poured myself a cup of coffee, the good kind. The kind I'd been saving in the back of the freezer for a special day. I understand perfectly, I said. Tamara stood, mascara smeared. People are calling my job, Eunice. My sister saw the video. My mother's threatening to disown me. You should have thought about that before you humiliated me in my own home, I said calmly. You made us look like monsters. You made yourselves look like monsters. I just pressed record. Wesley slammed his phone on the counter. We tried to help you. And this is how you repay us. You tried to control me. You treated me like a dog in a kennel. Like I should be grateful for a pat on the head and a dry diaper. They were silent. I took my coffee to the living room, sat in my chair and looked them both in the eye. I'm not taking that video down. Not until every bit of this is addressed. Not until someone who matters steps in. That someone came the very next day. Adult Protective Services. A woman named Ms. Carter, sharp-suited and soft-voiced, came with a binder and a notepad and said she'd seen the video. She sat with me privately, asked real questions. Not like that officer who brushed me off. Ms. Carter saw the video again, this time on my laptop. She took notes. And when she finished, she looked me in the eye and said, "You've been mistreated, ma'am. And you're not alone anymore." The next 2 weeks were a blur of interviews, paperwork, and official visits. They asked me if I felt safe. I said no. They asked me what I wanted. I said I want my house back. I want peace. They began preparing a case. Tamara and Wesley didn't say much after that. Denise stopped calling altogether. The silence was louder than the shouting had ever been. But I didn't mind. Because this time silence meant they were afraid. Not me. And for the first time in months I slept with my door unlocked. I never imagined I'd become that lady on the internet. The one whose heartbreak got passed around like morning gossip. But that little video, the one I filmed on an old beat-up phone I could barely hold steady, had taken on a life of its own. I hadn't planned for it. I hadn't dressed up. I hadn't rehearsed. I just told the truth. And the world listened. By the end of that week, the video had over 3 million views. People were angry for me. Furious, actually. There were women crying on camera, stitching my story into theirs. There were younger folks leaving comments saying they were going to check on their grandparents. Nurses, therapists, even a few retired social workers offering help. I didn't feel invisible anymore. And for once, Wesley and Tamara were the ones walking on eggshells in my house. Not me. But I knew internet noise alone wouldn't get them out of my home. Not for good. Not the way I needed. Then came the email. It was from a woman named Cassandra Wynn. She introduced herself as an attorney specializing in elder rights, and her message said, "Mrs. Simmons, I saw your video. I want to help you for free. No strings, no fees. Pro bono." I nearly dropped my glasses. Turns out, Cassandra was the granddaughter of Mavis Wynn, one of my old church friends from back in the day. I hadn't seen Mavis in years, but I remembered that family as being strong, smart, and full of women who didn't take no mess. Clearly, the apple didn't fall far. Cassandra came by the next afternoon, all pressed and polished in a navy suit, heels clicking like a gavel on my front steps. He brought coffee. Real coffee, dark roast. Not the weak decaf Tamara always bought and claimed I needed. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and laid it out straight. "You've got grounds for a full protective order, possible eviction proceedings under elder abuse statutes, and we can freeze your property from their control. But we'll need to move quickly." I was quiet a moment. "I've got a little money set aside, emergency fund hidden in my mattress. They don't know about it." Cassandra held up her hand. "You keep that, Mrs. Simmons. I told you, I'm handling this pro bono. You've already paid enough just living through this." I felt something break loose in my chest. Gratitude, yes, but also a fierce kind of pride. I hadn't been crazy. I hadn't been overreacting. I'd been violated. And now someone was willing to fight for me. We got to work. Cassandra helped me gather everything. The video, my written statements, even the posts from people online expressing concern. Adult Protective Services had already launched their own investigation after seeing the clip go viral, and their report backed up everything I said: coercion, humiliation, control disguised as care. The hearing was fast-tracked. Wesley tried to act concerned during the lead-up. He brought me tea one morning like he was still my little boy. Said, "Mama, maybe we took things too far. Maybe we can all just sit down and talk." I looked him square in the face. "Talk? You've been talking at me for 9 months. I finally said something back and now you want peace." He didn't respond. Just left the room like a wounded puppy. Tamar didn't even try. She sulked and slammed drawers and muttered loud enough for me to hear about how ungrateful I was. Ungrateful. for being stripped of dignity in my own home. I didn't say a word to either of them after that. The morning of the hearing, I opened my mattress and pulled out the envelope with my emergency fund. It had been hidden in a slit I sewed myself, tucked beneath years of memories and dust. I counted the cash, $150,000 in crisp bills and certificates, and held it like a lifeline. I didn't need it for the lawyer thanks to Cassandra's generosity, but I'd still need it for something else. I didn't know what yet, but I felt better just remembering I had it. They didn't know about it. They never would. In court, I sat between Cassandra and Ms. Leary from APS. The judge looked at me kindly but seriously. He asked questions. I answered clearly. Then Cassandra played the video. The whole courtroom could hear it. Tamar's voice saying I'd ruin the car seats. Wesley saying I couldn't come on vacation because I was too risky. The judge's jaw tightened. He asked them to explain. Tamara fumbled. Wesley stammered. They looked like liars because they were. Cassandra was like fire, precise, sharp, controlled. When she finished her closing remarks, even the bailiff looked impressed. The judge didn't take long. He issued a full protective order. Wesley, Tamara, and Denise, all legally barred from contacting me, entering my property, or managing any of my affairs. The order included immediate eviction from my home, citing emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and psychological coercion. They had 7 days to leave. And when we walked out of that courthouse, Cassandra at my side, I felt taller than I'd felt in years. Back at the house, I didn't say a word to them. I let them pack their things in silence. On the 7th morning, they were gone. The house echoed differently. No slammed doors. No lectures. No eyes watching my every move. Just quiet. Just mine. That afternoon, I made a phone call. Hired a professional caregiver, Janice. She comes twice a week to help me with groceries and lift the heavier things. But she doesn't tell me when to go to the bathroom. She calls me Miss Eunice. She listens. And with a small portion of that hidden savings, still untouched, still mine, I book something for myself. A trip to New Orleans. 7 days. Balcony suite. I plan to wear bright colors and eat fried oysters and maybe even dance if the music's good. I bought a new suitcase online. Hot pink. Because I'm not hiding anymore. The morning they left, I didn't watch them go. I didn't peek through the curtains to see if Tamara would cry, or if Wesley would slam the trunk out of habit. I didn't count their bags or wonder where they'd sleep next. I simply brewed my coffee, sat by the window with the bird song, and listened to the house breathe again. Because it was mine now. Not just on paper. Not just legally. But spiritually. The way it used to be before they moved in and made every room feel like a stage I didn't belong on. They were gone. And I was still here. The first thing I did that morning was open every window. Let the sun pour in. Let the air move. I scrubbed the kitchen from top to bottom, not because it was dirty, but because I needed to reclaim every inch of it. I threw out the wellness teas Tamara bought and replaced them with my sweet peach blend from the little shop off Main. I pulled my old floral quilt from the cedar chest and laid it back across my bed. I was reclaiming myself. One drawer at a time. Later that afternoon, Cassandra called to check on me. She didn't have to, not after everything she'd already done. But she did anyway. I told her the house was finally quiet. That I felt like I could exhale again without somebody sighing about it. Good, she said. That's what you deserve. After we hung up, I went into my room and pulled out the envelope again. My emergency fund. My secret. Still untouched except for that one trip I'd booked. It was all still there, just like Harold and I planned when we first tucked away that first $100 bill nearly 20 years ago. We called it our just-in-case money. I guess this was the case. I used a little more to hire a contractor to replace the bedroom lock. Not because I needed it anymore, but because I could. I had choices again. The rest I let sit. Quiet. Like a friend who knows when not to talk. 3 weeks later, I boarded a flight to New Orleans. My first time flying alone in decades. I wore a deep plum dress and a scarf tied tight around my hair, just like I used to on Sundays. The hotel staff greeted me with "Welcome, Miss Eunice," and I nearly cried on the spot. I walked the French Quarter in soft leather shoes. I ate shrimp po' boys with hot sauce that made my nose run. I heard music spilling out of open doors and followed it like a child chasing fireflies. And when I finally sat in Jackson Square, a man with a saxophone played a tune that brought me straight back to 1968. I don't even know what the song was, But I sat there with tears on my cheeks, not from sadness, from being alive. One evening, a young woman stopped me while I was sipping iced tea in the courtyard. She looked like she might have been in her 30s. Braids down to her waist, nose ring, wearing a t-shirt that read "Believe Black Women." She said, "Excuse me, but are you the lady from the video? The one whose kids made her wear those diapers?" I smiled and nodded. She sat down beside me and said, "My grandma saw your video. She showed it to all of us. Then she called a family meeting and told everyone she was rewriting her will. Said, if y'all don't treat me right while I'm alive, don't expect to benefit when I'm gone." We laughed. I reached across the table and held her hand for a moment. I didn't have to say anything. He understood. That trip changed me. Not just because I got away, but because it reminded me that I never needed permission to enjoy my life. I came back stronger. I joined a walking group for seniors on Tuesdays. I started attending a memoir writing workshop on Thursdays. Janice still comes by twice a week, but she doesn't fuss or patronize. He talks to me like a woman, like a friend. Sometimes the silence still catches me off guard. I'll turn around and half expect Wesley's voice calling down the hallway, or Tamara's passive-aggressive sighs behind her tablet. But it's just me now. And peace. Denise sent a card last month. No apology. Just a note saying she hopes I'm well, and that she misses how things used to be. I didn't write back. Not because I hate her, but because sometimes silence is the only answer cruel people deserve. I keep the video saved on a little flash drive now. I don't watch it, but I don't delete it either. It's a reminder of what I survived, of how far I came, and every now and then I still get messages from strangers. People who saw the video months ago and just now found the courage to say, thank you. But I didn't do it for applause. I did it because I was drowning in my own house and I had to claw my way back to the surface. I did it because if I didn't speak up, they would have kept shrinking me down until there was nothing left. I did it because I'm not a burden. I'm a woman, a mother, a survivor. And this house is mine. And no one will ever take that from me again.